I'm starting out using this frame that I found at the Dollar Tree, and I didn't know until recently that it's got a chalkboard inside of it, and I thought it was just like a frame with without the picture, because it kind of looks like the backing to what's in a photo frame. But yeah, you could use it as a chalkboard. I'm gonna do something else with it, but I do take the part that's a chalkboard and I set it to the side and save it for later use. And then I paint the whole thing with the color Casement, and that's by Fusion. And on its second coat, I cover the whole thing with some baking soda. And I'm doing that whole velvet technique. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to try it with white because I haven't seen anyone do it in white. So I cover the whole thing, and whatever falls on the side, I just use my spoon and push it upward and then just let it dry. I don't take it off until it's fully dry. I waited about 30 minutes and then went in with this brush and just started removing a lot of the baking soda that way. But then I ended up just picking up the frame and then just tapping the rest off. But that's what it looks like. I think it has a really cool effect. And I found these placemats at the Dollar Tree. I bought some for my table and then I bought a few to craft with. I only bought one of the blue with the hydrangeas. I probably should have bought more, but it's okay. I have to tell myself I don't need an abundance of things, right? And so I'm just showing you what it looked like if we used that one inside the frame. But I'm going with the blue hydrangeas. I think they're so pretty. And so I just move my frame all around and figure out what section I want to cut out. And so I want it to have a little bit of everything and not just like a big hydrangea in the center. I thought it looked prettier that way, and it's just so pretty. Look at it. Then I decided to distress it just a little bit. I don't want this old and grungy, but I do want to highlight the details in this frame. So I'm lightly going over it with some vintage photo distressing by Tim Holtz and gonna bring some around the sides of the frame as well. But I want to keep this looking crisp and clean and elegant. Then I take a handful of Spanish moss and just gather it up in my hands and just keep my thumb in the center and spin around and around and just crunch it up a little bit because we're making a nest. And this little vacuum cleaner does pick up moss. It's amazing. It doesn't hold a lot of it, but it picks it up. And so I want to set this to the bottom of my frame. So I'm going to add a layer of reindeer moss and glue that to the bottom of my frame and just tuck that in there. And then I'm going to add some glue to the bottom of my nest and then set that right into the reindeer moss and just hold it there for a minute. And if you use hot glue, you're definitely going to want your embossing gun to get rid of those pesky glue strings. Then I found these eggs at Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to pick out 3 of the blue ones and glue them right into my egg. Later thought I could have painted these eggs and done the velvet technique on those. They would have been so cute. Then I took a piece of drop cloth and these stamps I got at the Goodwill, and I'm writing out the word spring. Okay, once I have my word all printed out, I'm just going to glue it to the bottom of my frame using a little bit of hot glue. Then I added a little bit of Excelsior and some baby's breath. And then I took these pip berries that I got at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just take a few pieces of this and tuck it in around my nest. And that's it for this one. I think it came out so pretty and elegant and perfect for spring. All right, I'm taking this cute little chick that I found at the Dollar Tree and I'm painting it with the color casement. This has both a primer and a sealer in it, and all I'm giving it is one coat. And then I'm taking these water transfers. These are by Redesign. I'm going to choose some of these images. If you haven't worked with water transfers, you are missing out. They are so fun to work with. The back side is in black and white, and so you can see exactly where you're going to place your image. You're going to spritz your substrate and then set your image right down into that water. And just make sure you press it onto your substrate. You want to make sure that you have full contact. You can use a rag or a baby wipe or a tissue, whatever you want, and just press it down real good and then add some more water to the top. And I always dab a few times and wet it and dab a few times just to make sure that it's nice and wet before I remove it. These aren't finicky at all. I just decided to trim the edge of it, but that's it. I mean, you just slide it and look at how pretty that is. These things are amazing. They remind me of tattoos from when I was a kid. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, those are just so easy and so fun, and so are these. That one was cut in half because my husband cut the envelope. Oh, no, he tore it, not knowing that it was actually my package, and tore my transfer. I was a little mad. Not overly mad, but I was a little mad. Like, why you open up my mail? Like, leave my stuff alone. And I'm adding some to his arms. I love this color blue. It reminds me of that china that's so popular, and blue and white just look so beautiful together. And I didn't want this to look old and vintage either, so I'm keeping it nice and clean looking. But you see how easy this is. I mean, it's easier than rub-on transfers. It's certainly easier than casting out of my molds. I mean, this is just so fast. Easier than a Cricut, a stencil. I swear they're the easiest things to work with. And they're just so beautiful. And then I'm going to add one more there to the center. And that is it, guys. I left it just the way it is. It's absolutely beautiful. And let me know what you think of this. I hope you like it too. My Dollar Tree had these 9 by 12-inch wooden plaques for $5. And I thought that was such a steal, and I'd never seen them at my Dollar Tree before. So I bought several of them, and I'm going to go over the whole thing with some Mod Podge. I'm going to put on a heavy coat because this is raw wood and it loves to absorb anything for the first time. It's just sucks it right up. So I'm going to put a heavy coat on this and then I'm going to let it dry. I got this beautiful rice paper. It's by AB Studios. I got it on Etsy and it's just so pretty. I love how the little bunnies are looking up at the baby bird. It's just so beautiful. And so I want this to have that nice organic look. So, I'm going to wet it a little bit so it's easier to tear. And I left the piece here so you could see the number $12.93 if you want to buy it, and covered it with a piece of parchment. And I'm going to go over it with my mini heat press. Now, I will tell you not to make the same mistake that I made. My paper wasn't fully dry. It was still pretty damp when I did this. And so, although it still looks beautiful, it tore on the fibers of the paper. It pulled on them. And so I see a difference. I don't know if you will, but just be mindful, if you are working with rice paper, make sure that if you do the same method that I did, get it wet and tear it, that you need to make sure it's fully dry. And I don't always spray the whole image. A lot of times I'll take my water pen, but because of the fibers in some of these rice papers, I prefer to get it fully wet because there's hard pieces of fiber throughout the paper that sometimes when you pull, it pulls like through the whole paper and distorts the image. I've had that happen. And you can see when I take this off, those stronger fibers are very much noticeable. Like you can tell it almost looks like a white little wave in the image. And so I'm really careful that I don't pull on those because they don't break down with water as easily as the other parts of the paper. But once it's dry, I did some sanding and then I painted all around the sides with the color Celery by Waverly. This is just a real quick project, something fun. I love to work with decoupage papers and napkins. I think it's just so fun and relaxing, and you can add them to everything and anything. But this is sucking that chalk paint right up. It's raw wood and it probably could have been sanded in those areas. All I have is my palm sander and I just didn't want to distort that dip there. And next I'm gonna offload my brush with a little bit of Antique Wax by Waverly and just brush all along the sides to add a little bit of age to this. And you can totally skip this step if you don't like things to look distressed and age. Just skip this step altogether. And then I decided I wanted to go in with some Tim Holtz Distress Ink because I wanted to get it into like the fibers of the paper along the sides. And the antique wax just wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. So I went all around just my image, the sides of my image with this. And then I went over the whole thing with some liquid patina to seal everything in. And I also brought that around the sides just to make sure my chalk paint was all sealed in as well. Next, I took some wired twine. You can get this at the Dollar Tree. I got mine at Walmart. And this is what I'm going to use for my hanger. I'm going to add a few staples and that's going to finish off my hanger. Then I took a white piece of chiffon ribbon. It's like an off-white color and just adding a bow. And that is it for this one. I think it came out super cute and I love how I chose not to paint it. You can see the wood grain through the rice paper. I love this. Let me know what you think of this one. All right, that's it for today's projects. I absolutely love how each and every one of these turned out, and I hope I inspired you in some way. If you like these DIYs, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all the things. Until the next one, bye.